They did not invite her because they missed her. They invited her because they had a plan. The hotel was called the Miru Grand, 42 floors of imported stone and silence in the heart of Seoul. The kind of place where the staff remembered your name before you reached the desk and forgot your business the moment you left. It was the kind of place that looked like a celebration. It was not a celebration. Someone had booked that private dining room 3 weeks in advance. Someone had chosen the guest list carefully. Someone had made sure there would be cameras at the table. Not hotel cameras, personal ones. Phone cameras. The kind that upload instantly and travel faster than apologies. They had thought of everything. Except the floors above them. Except the man who was already watching. 42 floors. And the wrong people only knew about 39 of them. Her name was Safi, and she was the most important person in that building. Nobody at that table knew it yet. She breathed once, slowly, and decided not to cry. 3 floors above her, a man stood up from his chair. Before we go back to that dining room, you need to understand who Safi was before she walked into it. She ran a cultural foundation, not a small one, the kind that moved heritage pieces across continents, negotiated with private collectors in 4 languages, and had its correspondence read by people who sat on international arts councils. She had built it herself, quietly, without fanfare, without anyone in her family fully understanding what it meant. That was the thing about Safi. She did not announce herself. She simply worked. And the work accumulated into something extraordinary while the people closest to her were still deciding whether she was worth taking seriously. She had come to Seoul for one reason. A private collection of Pan-African heritage works had been held in a Seoul Cultural Trust for 18 months, caught in a legal negotiation between 2 private families who could not agree on valuation. Safi's foundation had been brought in as a neutral acquiring party. If she closed this deal, those pieces would come home. Not to a museum. Home. To the communities they belonged to. She had 4 days to finalize the paperwork. She had been in Seoul for 4 days already when her phone rang. Her cousin Sela had a voice that always sounded like it was doing you a favor. "We want to celebrate you," she said. "You are always working so hard. Let us come. Let us be proud of you." Safi had paused. She knew Sela. She had known Sela her entire life. She knew the warmth in that voice was a costume, not a character. But she was tired of being the cousin who assumed the worst. She was tired of the distance she had to maintain just to protect herself. So she said yes. That yes would cost her something. But it would also change everything. Sela did not book those flights on impulse. She had been planning this for weeks. She had chosen the Miru Grand specifically because it was the kind of hotel that photographed well. Every corner of it was designed to be seen. She had found it on a travel page that described it as Seoul's most visually prestigious address. She had not chosen it because it was where Safi was already staying. That part was coincidence. A beautiful, terrible coincidence that Sela took as confirmation that the plan was meant to happen. She built the guest list over 2 weeks. 6 people. All of them connected to the same social circles. All of them with active, well-followed accounts. All of them the kind of people who laughed loudly and documented everything. The plan did not require cruelty. It only required a stage. Put Safi in a room full of people who valued a particular kind of beauty. Let the contrast do the work. Let the cameras do the rest. Mina knew about the plan. She had not suggested it. She had not protested it either. That silence made her part of it in ways she would spend a long time trying to forgive herself for. "It is just dinner," Sela told her. "We are not doing anything wrong. We are simply letting people see what they see." Mina had looked at her sister and thought of Safi's face, the last time they were all together at home. The way she had laughed at something, unguarded and full, and how Sela had glanced at the room to measure whether people found it embarrassing. She had said nothing then either. They landed in Seoul on a Thursday evening. Safi met them in the hotel lobby with a warm smile and a hug that was completely genuine. That made it worse. If you have never been somewhere foreign and alone, you might not understand what Seoul did to Safi in those first 4 days before her cousins arrived. It had humbled her first. The city was enormous and precise, and completely indifferent to whether she belonged in it. No one on the street knew who she was. No one knew what she managed or what she had built. She was simply a woman with a rolling suitcase and a meeting at 9 in the morning. She had found that clarifying. She had also found Rael. Rael was her local contact for the acquisition, a Seoul-based arts administrator who had been coordinating the trust documents on the ground. They had only ever spoken by email before. In person, she was warm and direct, and spoke about the heritage collection with the kind of reverence that told Safi she was in the right room. They had spent 2 afternoons together, reviewing documents, walking the city between meetings, finding the rhythm of a friendship that surprised both of them with how quickly it felt real. "You seem like someone who has been carrying something heavy for a long time," Rael had said, unprompted, over coffee on the second afternoon. Safi had laughed. "Is it that obvious?" "No," Rael said. "That is what makes it impressive." Before we go further, where are you watching this from right now? Drop your city in the comments. Because this story is about to get very intense, and I want to know who is in the room with me. The acquisition meeting had gone well. Not perfectly. There had been a last-minute complication with one of the legal clauses that required Safi to request a 48-hour extension. But well, professionally, on her own terms. She had returned to the hotel that evening feeling competent and tired and genuinely at peace with where she was. Then her cousins arrived, and the air in the building changed. While Safi was meeting her cousins in the lobby 39 floors below, something else entirely was happening at the top of the Miru Grand. His name was Tae, and the Miru Grand was not simply a hotel to him. The top 3 floors had been quietly leased by a private organization called the Baek Council for the better part of a decade. Not publicly, not visibly, just leased. The way power often worked in this city, not announced, simply present. Tae had been in Seoul for 6 days, finalizing the most significant territorial acquisition his organization had managed in 4 years. A rival network's assets. Properties, accounts, alliances, all of it being transferred through legal channels so clean they left no residue. He was not a man who got distracted. Kai had been reviewing the hotel's internal security feeds as a standard nightly protocol when a name flagged on the guest registry matched a file from their active documents. The Safi Foundation. Acquiring party. Protected cultural trust. Confirmed non-threat. Flagged for passive monitoring only. He had almost moved past it. Then he pulled up the dining room camera and watched what was happening at that table. He crossed the room and knocked once on the door to Tae's private office. "There is something you should see," he said. Tae watched the screen for 40 seconds without speaking. Then he watched Safi breathe. Once. And fold her hands beneath the table. And he stood up. "Let me tell you what was happening at that table, because it matters. Every detail of it matters." It had started with the menu. Sela had pre-ordered for the table. She announced this warmly, the way a considerate host might, but the portions she had arranged for Safi were different, smaller, and she made sure to mention it. "I ordered you the lighter option," she said. "You have been working so hard. I thought you would appreciate it." The table had laughed softly, not cruelly, just enough. Safi had not reacted. She had simply picked up her water glass and taken a sip and looked at the floral centerpiece as if she was admiring it. Then came the photographs. One of the guests had suggested a group photo, a celebration, she said. Sela had immediately agreed and arranged the group. She positioned Safi at the edge, then asked the photographer, another guest with a professional camera, to get everyone in frame. The framing kept shifting, kept finding reasons to crop Safi slightly. Not completely, just enough that anyone looking at the photo later would see the margin she had been placed in. Safi saw it. She said nothing. I need to pause here and ask you something directly. Comment below. Did Safi stay too long at that table? Or was leaving exactly what Sela wanted her to do? I want to know what you would have done. Then Sela made her real move. She raised her glass and offered a toast. To Safi, she said, to everything she has accomplished. And then, with perfect social timing, she added, we are so proud of how far you have come, especially considering everything you have had to overcome. That word, overcome, positioned precisely, meaning everything that was never said out loud. The table raised their glasses. Mina raised hers too. She did not look at Safi. If you are angry right now, you are supposed to be. Comment the word enough if you felt that toast in your chest. Because Safi felt it too. She just did not let them see it. And that was the moment. That was the breath. One slow inhale. Her hands moving beneath the table, folding together where no one could see them shake. She had decided not to cry. She had decided not to leave. She had decided to simply remain, still, composed, and more present in that room than any of them understood. And then the door opened. Nobody at that table needed to be told who he was. That was the thing about Tay. He did not require an introduction. He required only proximity. He walked directly to the empty chair beside Safi. He did not ask permission. He did not acknowledge the table. He pulled the chair out, sat down, and turned to Safi with the particular ease of someone greeting a person they have been expecting to see. Safi, he said, simply. Her name, as if he had said it before. She turned to look at him, and for the first time that evening, her composure was not armor. It was genuine surprise. I apologize for the interruption, he said, to her specifically, not to the table. There is a matter regarding the trust documents I wanted to discuss with you before tomorrow morning, but I can wait until after dinner if you prefer. The trust documents. He had mentioned the trust documents, the same acquisition she had been working on for 18 months. The same trust that no one outside a very small professional circle should have known she was connected to. Safi's mind was moving very fast behind a face that showed nothing. He knew her work, he knew her name, and he was sitting beside her in a room where she had just been made to feel invisible, acting as though she was the only person at the table worth addressing. She did not know yet what that meant, but Sela did. Sela's guests began making quiet excuses almost immediately. An early morning, a call they had forgotten. One by one, the performance dissolved. Within 12 minutes, the dining room had emptied except for Safi, Tay, Sela, and Mina. Sela looked across the table at Safi with an expression Safi had never seen on her face before. It took her a moment to recognize it. It was uncertainty. Safi did not sleep well that night, not because of her cousins. She had survived Sela her entire life. What kept her awake was the man in the dark suit who had said her name like he already knew her. The next morning she had her acquisition meeting. She went alone. She sat across from the trust's legal representatives, reviewed the final clause amendments, initialed every page, and signed the primary agreement at 11:47 in the morning. 18 months of work. Done. She had walked out of that meeting room into a sole corridor and stood very still for about 30 seconds, letting it land. Then she called Rael. What she did not know was that 40 minutes earlier, Kai had walked into Tay's office with a printed transcript. Sela had contacted a social media outlet connected to the hotel's entertainment scene. The message she had sent used careful language, nothing outright false, everything carefully implied. She had suggested that a woman staying at the Miru Grand, a large African woman presenting herself as a foundation director, might be worth investigating. She had implied the foundation was not what it appeared to be. She had implied Safi's sudden connection to someone of Tay's profile was not professional. She had tried to make Safi look like a threat, to Tae specifically. Tae read the transcript once. He set it down. He looked at the Seoul skyline for approximately 10 seconds. Then he made 3 phone calls. He did not tell Kai what was said on those calls. He did not need to. By early afternoon, the gossip outlet had issued a quiet retraction. Editorial error, unverified source, the post removed. The guests from the dinner had each received a formal communication from a legal firm they did not recognize, suggesting that public commentary regarding any events at the Miru Grand during this period would be legally inadvisable. The message was clear. The Baek Council did not shout. It simply closed doors. Sela did not see it coming until the doors were already shut. Safi found out about the planted story from Rael, not from Tae, not from Kai. From Rael, who had seen it on her phone during lunch and gone very still, and then called Safi immediately. Safi had listened to everything Rael told her. She had not interrupted once. When Rael finished, there was a silence. Then Safi said, "How long has it been up?" "About 2 hours," Rael said. "But it is already, Safi, it is already moving." Safi looked at the ceiling of her hotel room. She thought about 18 months of work. She thought about the document she had signed that morning. She thought about the people who had trusted her foundation to bring those heritage pieces home. And then she made a decision. She did not call Tae. She contacted her foundation's legal counsel directly. She documented everything she had. She prepared a formal statement. She did the work. And 3 hours later, she discovered that the story was already gone. Retracted, removed, quietly erased as if it had never existed. She sat with that information for a long time. Then came a knock at her door. It was Sela. Comment right now. What do you think Safi says to Sela at that door? Because what actually happened is not what I expected. And I have been telling stories for a long time. Sela did not come to apologize. She came to negotiate. She wanted Safi to tell Tae to stand down, to make whatever calls she had made and reverse whatever pressure had been applied. Safi looked at her cousin for a long moment. The cousin who had flown across the world to humiliate her, who had sat at a table and toasted her destruction with champagne. "I did not ask him to do anything," Safi said quietly. "Whatever is happening is the result of what you chose to do in a building you did not understand." Sela stared at her. "Then call him," Sela said. "Tell him to stop." Safi stepped back from the door. "I think you should go home, Sela," she said, and she closed it. She had packed her bags. She had her boarding pass. She had her foundation documents in her carry-on. She had done everything she came to Seoul to do. She took the elevator to the 40th floor. Kai met her at the elevator. He looked at her for a moment, then stepped aside without a word. She walked to the door at the end of the corridor and knocked. Tae opened it himself. He looked at the coat, the bag, the boarding pass just visible in her hand. "You are leaving?" he said. Not a question. "I came to say thank you," she said, "and to ask you something." He stepped back from the door. She walked in. She asked him directly, "Why did you come downstairs?" He was quiet for a moment, the kind of quiet that was not avoidance, but precision. "The protocol said your name was in our files," he said. "Kai brought it to me as a security matter. That is what I told myself when I stood up." He paused. "But I watched you breathe," he said. "One breath. At a table full of people who wanted you to break. And you decided not to. I have not made an impulsive decision in 11 years." She looked at him. "You are the second one," he said. The room was very quiet. "What was the first?" she asked. He looked at her with something that was almost a smile. "That," he said, "is a long story." She missed her flight. She did not call anyone to explain. She simply sat down in the chair across from him, set her boarding pass on the table between them, and listened to the beginning of a long story. Outside, Seoul moved on without them. The city was indifferent as always. But inside that room, something was beginning that neither of them had planned for. The most dangerous kind of beginning. The kind that feels, from the very first moment, like it was always going to happen. If this story moved you, if you felt every single moment of what Safi carried and what she chose, please subscribe right now. This channel exists for stories exactly like this one. Hit that button and never miss another. 3 weeks later, the acquisition was formally announced. Safi's foundation was named in international cultural press. The Pan-African Heritage Initiative that had been held in that Seoul trust for 18 months was confirmed, with Safi as its lead curator. Her name, her real name, her professional name, the name she had built quietly and without permission, was in print in 4 languages. Sela returned home. The family group chats were unusually quiet for a while. Mina sent a message. 2 words only. "I'm sorry." Safi read it 3 times. She did not reply immediately, but she did not delete it. If you know someone who has ever been made to feel small by the people who should have protected them, share this story with them. They need to hear it. The last thing we see is a window, Seoul at dusk. The city turning from gold to navy, and Safi standing at the glass with a warm presence just behind her, close but not crowding, not demanding, simply there. She is smiling, not because she was rescued, not because she won, but because she stayed, because she signed the document, closed the door on her cousin, walked to the 40th floor on her own 2 feet, and sat down in a chair and chose to be present in her own life. That was the thing they had never understood about her. She had never needed saving. She had only ever needed a room where someone looked at her and saw exactly what was there. This story is complete, but I want to know one thing from you. Drop it in the comments. Which character in this story deserved peace the most? And what do you think happened the morning after that missed flight? Tell me everything.